Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail, our highway in the sky.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is ResortLoop.com. I'm Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
Bob, this is episode 144, the square root of 12. I know.
Did you just call me a square?
I did.
What?
We all know. Bob,
How did you know that's a square root of 12 anyway?
that's one of those things I had to memorize before this new math. Before I had to know why.
Yeah. Google's your friend. Don't lie.
Oh, that's true too.
All right. So we're going to jump right into this, Tim, because this is a subject that is, as many of you know, near and dear to my heart. Having a special needs niece and grandnephews, believe it or not. And as well, we're going to kind of, usually we're joking around all the time, but this is going to be a little bit more of a serious show, Tim.
It is. It's very important. I think a lot of people need to know that Disney World, and mostly anything Disney, is family-friendly for everybody in the family. Correct. Those with special needs, and this is a show we've been wanting to do for a while. Summer got in the way.
Right, scheduling. So let us introduce our very, very special guest, Kathy Kelly, RN. Does that stand for really nice?
I like to think so. It stands for registered nurse. Hi, Bob. Hi, Tim.
Hi there.
Hi,
Thanks for
Kathy.
joining us.
Bing bong.
Oh.
That's what my son always says when he hears your theme music. He comes running. Bing bong, bing bong.
Oh,
that
cool.
Is fantastic. Oh, well, thank you. So, Kathy, you have, first off, let you kind of introduce yourself because you've got an awful lot going on and I won't do justice to it. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Oh, well, thanks, Bob. I'm Kathy, and I have a website and podcast and blog. SpecialMouse.com is our home base, and we are the only podcast, unofficial Disney podcast, that concerns itself with issues related to guests with additional challenges, special needs, disabilities, and whether they're visible and invisible. So we focus on the special.
Right. And I mean, keep in mind, folks, this isn't just your typical special needs folks, the ones that it's obvious for. This goes you cover the entire spectrum from diabetes and diet and epilepsy, things that aren't really always obvious on the outside. And,
we sure do. Yeah. Because it's funny when you think of special needs, of course, the first thing you think of is, special education. And really, I dare say if you take any family group, particularly a large group, if they have extended family, grandparents, babies, everyone, if they're going to Disney, it's very difficult to find a group that there's not one member that has at least one special need, air quotes. So doesn't have to necessarily be a disability. It could be going to Walt Disney World when you're pregnant, or we've done shows about infants, taking care of an infant under the age of 1. That's a special need.
Absolutely, yeah.
Food allergies, or yes, some of the chronic health conditions, insulin-dependent diabetes or fibromyalgia. In addition to cognitive and developmental disabilities. That's how I got into this. My son, who's now 16, oh my gosh, wow. We first started going to Disney in 2003, and he has classic autism. He has autism spectrum disorder. So we've been regular visitors to Walt Disney World. We're Disney Vacation Club owners because I just knew, I fell in love with the place. I knew we had to keep coming back because they were so wonderful, so accommodating to him and his needs. And I just fell in love with it. I'm definitely a Disney Parks fan. And after you start getting into the community, the online community, and you're reading the blogs and listening to the podcasts, I looked around and I said, gee, there's no podcasts that really cover the needs of families like mine. Every so often you'd get a story or a trip report or something that would lightly touch on it. But
Right.
I wanted to take it and just dive deep and just go and really chat with folks that are working with extra challenges. Our tagline for the show is "The magic is for everyone."
Right.
And I truly believe that. I really, truly believe that. And I think Walt believed that too.
Absolutely. And you're right. My brother-in-law, actually, not a Disney fan at all, never wanted to go to Disney. And then when my sister and him took my niece, who has special needs, to Disney and saw how she was just taken care of and treated like a princess wherever they went, anywhere they went. His entire view of Disney changed. It's not just a place for kids. It's a place for adults. It's a place where everyone is included and should be included. Now, we brought you on the show because now, Tim, is it okay if I vent?
Please do.
Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way.
I knew this was coming. That's why I've kind of been in the background.
Yeah. So,
stand back, Kathy.
Being someone who is affected by the changes that Disney had to incur, the first thing I want to say to all of those people who did fake illnesses to get to the front of the line, shame on you people. Shame on you people. It breaks my heart that people who do not need the extra care are going to cheat the system in every facet of life. I went to a plaza near me, and this car pulls up and parks right in a handicapped spot. And 3 very healthy young men got out of the car and went into the store. And I wish that I could have been a police officer and had that car towed. So shame on all those people. All right, I'm done. I could go on for probably an hour and a half being very angry.
But you feel better now, right? You feel better now.
I don't know. This is why we have you on the show. Do I feel better? Is this new DAS, that card that Disney has come out with, is it working? And can I feel good about the fact that Disney's still going to take care of special needs folks?
Well, I think it all depends on who you talk to, Bob and Tim. I have been keeping very, very close watch on this throughout the various social media outlets, blogs, and Facebook groups, podcasts, etc. And I have to say, it's really split down the middle. I would say maybe half the people are able to continue to access the attractions using the current Disability Access Service Card, DAS, which changed back in October. I believe it was October. It was the first week of October, I believe, of this last year. So we're actually coming up almost on a year of this new system. The old system was the Guest Assistance Card. If I could just backtrack a little bit to the history of this, it started about a little over 10 years ago or so, where the Guest Assistance Card was the method by which guests with all sorts of disabilities and special needs could access attractions. And you were given the same card, but different stamps based upon what your need was. So you could, for example, have low vision, and you would get a stamp that would permit you then to sit up front in the shows so that you could see. Then you might have a card stamped, for example, the card that we used with my son with autism, because of his behavioral sensory communication issues. It permitted us to have accelerated access to the attractions. If a popular attraction, for example, the Fast Pass attractions, we could enter via the the FastPass queue. And I will correct you, Bob, because you had mentioned something, and it's a real point of contention. You mentioned those three little words, front of line, and that's a no-no.
Right.
Because front of line, there never ever was a front of line access granted with the old system. That's a misconception that is often found in the media, particularly the non-Disney related media. They always say, they used to get front of the line. No, we never got front of the line. I always say, no, we got the back of the line. But it was the back of the FastPass.
Right, right.
So, do you remember with the magical, what was it, when they were doing the all of the giveaways, and they were, what was that called?
Oh, yeah.
It lasted about 2 years.
Year of a Million Dreams.
Year of a Million Dreams. That's it. One of the dreams that the cast members, the dream team used to distribute was called the Golden FastPass. And actually, my family, we were in Star Tours at one point. The ride was getting ready to start. We were all strapped in and everything. And all of a sudden, the dream team comes marching in with their khaki pants and their blue shirts and their special lanyards. And they all come in and they're like, this is the dream team, and you are all being granted a dream as part of the Year of a Million Dreams. And what they gave us was a lanyard with a FastPass ticket, so that you could go to all of the FastPass attractions in Disney Hollywood Studios, and that you could just go on the FastPass line. You didn't have to run around and get the paper tickets. Well, this is a great thing because it's just so convenient instead of running around.
Right.
And this is what many of the guests who used the guest assistance card, and for the purposes of our discussion, let's talk about the group of guests who have cognitive and intellectual and developmental disabilities, because mobility is a different thing. They have altered entrance, because of the wheelchairs and access. That's a whole separate form, and currently is not covered by the DAS. So if we're going to have a DAS discussion, just so that we can wrangle this thing a little bit, because we could talk for 3 hours, let's just focus on guests who have sensory issues, cognitive, intellectual, these so-called invisible disabilities, if you would.
Right.
So what we used to get was, in effect, this golden FastPass, so that if, for example, you showed up at Space Mountain and the line for standby was 50 minutes, 70 minutes or so, you could say, okay, instead I'm going to use the guest assistance card. For yourself, it's up to a group of 6, your family, because obviously the person isn't going by themselves. So the point of the card is so that the individual with the disability has access with their group. Right. And you would go to the end of the FastPass and you would present it just like you would the old FastPass ticket. And then same thing, you would get to that second checkpoint in the ride and you would show your guest assistance card, and it was a FastPass.
Right. Okay.
Now, that system, for many reasons, you mentioned about people who were abusing the system by getting the guest assistance card unnecessarily.
Yes.
That was only one of the reasons why the system has changed. It became unwieldy and became impossible to police. One of the reasons is because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Disney is not permitted to require proof of disability. Now, this is by law. This is federal law. So now many times, and in fact, we did it in the beginning too, we would bring a doctor's note and we would bring documentation to show. But essentially, all you need to do is present what the need is. You don't even have to reveal the diagnosis. It's for privacy. It's not privacy laws. It's not HIPAA. That's another mistake that goes around. People say, it's HIPAA laws. HIPAA has to do with privacy of information in hospitals and healthcare. Has to do with healthcare.
Right.
It doesn't govern businesses such as Disney. Disney's a corporation; they're providing a service, an experience. So it is then it's not a hard leap to take to realize that it's very easy to fake it. And there were many people that were faking it. There were also many people who were using it improperly.
Oh.
I'll give you an example. I had an email from someone who on my website on specialmouse.com there is a sign-in, an opt-in if you want to receive. I put together a little guideline for requesting the DAS, just because there's so many questions and confusions. Even now, even 10 months into it, people are just not quite sure what they need to do when they're approaching guest services to request the accommodation. So I said, all right, I kind of got tired of answering the same question over and over again. So I said, okay, I'm just going to put it all in one nice little package, tie it up with a bow, with links to all of the different resources. There's links to, the official website. There's links to just various resources, and it's there. So that's something, if any of your listeners want some further information, they can hop on over there. It's free. You just click in and it'll be sent to you via email. So I received an email from someone who had requested one of these guides.
Right. And
he said, okay, well, we always used it. This was in Disneyland. He used it in Disneyland. We always used the guest assistance card for my son, and so that the rest of the family could have a good time. How can we do this in the new system? And I was a little unsure of what he was asking, and so I sent back to him. I said, well, this is what it's providing. It's no longer providing. And this is the crux of the matter. This is what we're gonna boil it down to. The real issue is Disney is still providing an accommodation for guests with cognitive and intellectual disabilities, but instead of accelerated access, the way that the old guest assistance card provided, they are now providing through DAS an alternate waiting area.
Okay.
So it's different, and it's more cumbersome to use. And let's just call it what it is. It's no longer accelerated access. No guests get accelerated access. There's only 2 guests that get accelerated access. The one is the Wish kids and their family.
Mm-hmm.
They do get true front of the line. And the second is people who pay for the VIP tours through Disney.
Mm-hmm.
They get accelerated access through the very expensive VIP tours.
So where are these places where they have to go in order? Is it like a fast pass where they have to wait a certain time to go back to the ride?
Well, the current system is still a card. It's a card system, and again, we're still in the first year, and it's slowly getting changed. I think they brought it out rather unceremoniously. Actually, there was not much preparation. This is the one beef that I have with Disney, is that they just sort of now with Disney everything takes years, everything takes months, everything takes years. Nothing happens quickly. So they knew that they were going to be amending this system because of it was just unwieldy. It was just it was out of control. It was out of control, not only because of the people that were scamming, let's say, but people who were using it inappropriately. And I'll finish the story in just a second. But the third reason is because there's been an explosion in numbers, in volume, in demand for this accommodation, because autism and related disorders is exploding.
Yes.
In terms of numbers. I mean, the actual numbers statistically, there's just more. There's more of these guests. Also, times are changing. We've changed since 1971 at the beginning. Society is changing. Times are changing. People who have these types of disabilities, it used to be stigma. they used to be kept apart. They used to be segregated from the rest of society. And you went into an institution or you stayed at home and you didn't go out. You didn't bring your child with quote unquote mental retardation out into the community because times were different then.
Right.
Now we've become more accepting, more aware, more open. And we realize that people with developmental and intellectual disabilities do better in the community and they have something to contribute to society.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So all of these forces joined together to form this perfect storm. And at the same time, in an effort to control the crowds, because that's the biggest concern, the biggest complaint, if you would, of guests in the Disney parks is what? The lines, the queues, the lines, the crowds. And yes, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you used to be able to go to the resorts at a certain time of year. That was considered the low season.
Right.
There is no low season anymore. It's always crowded because they've always got things going on now. They've got the Run Disney events and they've got the festivals and they've got all kinds of things to make the crowds. Yes, of course, there's always going to be certain times of the year that are going to be higher. The times that the children are out of school. So anytime you have school break, it's going to be higher. But there is no more quiet season anymore.
Right.
So that was the whole reason behind the change to the My Magic Plus and the Fast Pass Plus reservation system. And so everything was changing and they had to pull along the system of accommodation with that because the two could not coexist. You could not have the GAC in its previous incarnation coexisting with the Fast Pass Plus and the My Magic Plus.
Right.
It just wouldn't work. So that's the reason, we believe. Again, this is speculation on my part. I'm not a Disney. I don't work for Disney. I don't know, what goes on behind closed doors. But this is the general consensus that those three things came together in a perfect storm to make the change from the guest assistance card to the DAS. So now with the current system, what you do is, again, you go to guest relations, the entire group together, and you present yourself to the cast member at guest relations, and you explain that you would like the Disability Access Service Card, the DAS, because you have a condition that makes it difficult for you to wait in a long line. Remember now, this is to be used in conjunction with the Fast Pass Plus reservation system. It's not a replacement for, so you still get your 3 reservations ahead of time, plus whatever else you can make, after you've used those 3 reservations. This is meant as a supplement. So
now are you finding, I don't mean to interrupt, but are you finding with, because you talk on your show, your podcast and your blog, you talk with a lot of people that go, you do like us, with a lot of interaction with your listeners and the folks in the community.
Oh yeah, I love trip reports. Trip reports are the best because you really get the good kernels of information, the best tips.
Right.
When you talk to someone who's just back from a cruise or a trip. Yeah.
Are you finding that most people are utilizing the fast passes more than they used to now? Using those 3 fast passes better in conjunction with the DAS than they did in the past?
Well, I think it's probably more difficult for those of us who were accustomed to using the GAC, because we never had to get fast passes.
Right.
We never had to run around the park. That was one of the beauty. You never had to split up. You never had to send a runner. This was the blessing of having the guest assistance card, is that, oh my goodness, it just saved you so much time and effort and running around and planning and when you have an adult or a child with these types of disabilities, you have to be completely flexible. It's very hard to predict when they're going to become overstimulated and overwhelmed, when they're going to need to take a break. So So yes, you plan for the best, but you prepare for the
right.
to just toss it, and just start all over again.
Right.
But we were going to Walt Disney World for 10 years, and the only time we ever used a fast pass was if my son didn't want to go on a certain attraction. So, for example, we went to Splash Mountain, and he just balked. He said, "Oh no Splash Mountain, no Splash Mountain."
Mm-hmm.
But my daughter really wanted to go, and I wanted to go. So we had a choice. And there's the ethical choice, and then there's the unethical choice. The unethical choice would have been to present the guest assistance card and have our family of 4 go to the end of the fast pass queue, get up to the chicken exit, and then have my son and my husband jump off at the chicken exit.
Right.
That's, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, that's an unethical use of the guest assistance card, because my son, it wasn't being used to get my son access onto the attraction.
Right.
Because he doesn't plan to ride, So what we had to do is we had to say, okay, change of pace. My husband said, all right, I'll take Billy and we'll go over. He wants to go see the Hall of Presidents. I know.
Excellent.
No,
he loves the Hall of Presidents.
Nothing wrong with that.
We'll go see the Hall of Presidents, and Trish and I just decided to jump on the end of the standby because it was whatever, half hour. We knew that they'd be involved in the show for like a half hour. And, that's the choice, but that's, in my opinion, the correct choice. Now, a lot of people don't use it that way. And in fact, let me get back to that email that I talked about. So the gentleman sent me back another email and said, well, the way we used to do it is, my son, he can't really ride very much because of his disabilities. So, we would kind of, he would sit and wait on the bench, and we would take turns waiting with him while the rest of the family went on the attractions
and using the
GAC.
Yeah.
So I had to write back to him. He wasn't very pleased with the answer, and I had to write back, I'm sorry, but that was not a correct usage of the guest assistance card.
Right.
Now, you have to imagine that the cast member who's now at the front of the attraction, they weren't there at guest services. They don't know who the person is. It's not like they give you a big old sticker and stick it on your chest saying, yep, that's me right here, the one with the disability. I'm the one.
Right.
So they have no idea, and they can't really ask.
Right.
They're not in a position that they can ask. So you can see how it was extremely easy for people to game the system. So like this gentleman who, for whatever reason, whether it was intentional or whether it was innocent, it's not for me to judge. But people were doing this. They were getting a guest assistance card for a person with a disability, having the person with the disability sit while the rest of the family or the group went on.
Right.
And of course, this is throwing off a lot of the fast pass times.
Sure.
And a lot of, because how many times have you shown up with your fast pass and you look and you go, gee, this isn't a very short line.
Right.
This is a very long line. I'm still waiting for a half hour, and I've got my fast pass, and you're scratching your head saying, what the heck?
What's going on? Right.
So again, I'm sure that the people that were crunching numbers, they were looking at this and saying, okay, we cannot keep the guest assistance card the way it was. So the current system, let's get back to that. The current system with the DAS is you present yourself to guest services, and the person for whom the card is being issued now has a photograph taken. It's very easy. They just hold up an iPad, click. It's the one time I approve of iPad photo taking in the parks,
right.
By the way, because you're not obstructing anyone's view, right?
Exactly.
So they hold up and click. It's very unobtrusive. They take a picture of whoever it is, and then everything else is pretty much the same as before. They say how many people in your party. If you happen to have a large family, if you have more than 6 people in your group, it's not a problem. You just ask to speak to a supervisor. They come, they want to eyeball you. They want to see that, yes, in fact, this is a family or a group, and they give you permission to have more than 6. It's not.
Right.
I haven't heard of any issue with that.
And can I say this? I wanted to say this when you mentioned the 6 people before. For all those people out there that are listening and say, well, they shouldn't allow 6. Maybe one other person should be allowed to go with them, based on your previous story about the email. there are a lot of situations, and my niece is one of them. If the entire group is not together, she will have a meltdown because she doesn't understand why why isn't, Uncle Bob going on this ride with me? I want him to go on. So,
there's a certain rigidity. There's a certain, obsessive, compulsive nature to many of these conditions. Oh, yes, I know it well.
So you can't just say, hey, one person gets to go with this person with the need, and the rest of you're on your own. It doesn't work that way with a lot of special needs folks. So
then you have the situation where there's more than one person who has this type of disability, because there's no law in nature that says you can only get one. Many times you've got more than one child who is on the spectrum or who has a developmental disability, or it could be one adult, one child. This is also used for people who have like severe anxiety disorder, and they have almost like a claustrophobia, and so for them, having an alternate waiting experience, which conveniently for Disney, they say, well, go shop, go eat, go spend money.
Right, spend money. Right.
Go do something else, go to a lesser popular attraction, or go do something else and then come back. So again, this is what happens. You show up at whatever attraction. Let's say, let's go back to the studios, and of course, what do we want to do? We want to do Toy Story Midway Mania, right? Because that's the popular, and that's very, very famously has problems with their flow. So you show up to Toy Story Midway Mania, and just like always, you have the choice: standby line or use your DAS. It's up to you to decide what the person can tolerate. If the line, if the posted wait time for standby is 70 minutes, and you say, "Oh no, I can't do that," you present your DAS card, and they take 70 minutes, which you would have waited. This is the tricky part. So if you had gotten on the end of the standby, theoretically, your wait would have been 70 minutes. So they take 70 minutes plus 10 for back and forth, and they say, come back in 90 minutes. So you go now, you've got 90 minutes to go and do whatever else you want to do. You come back to the attraction, you present your DAS, they look at the card, and they put a cross through it like, okay, you're here for your return. And now you go back on the end of the Fast Pass to wait another 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's not a front of the line.
Right.
Again, I keep sounding like beating the dead horse. There is no front of the line.
Right.
So naturally, if you look at this, it's much more cumbersome than the old way. It is not an accelerated access. I mean, technically it is, because you're still getting on the end of the Fast Pass attraction. Yeah. But many people have a difficulty, like, okay, wait a minute, now I'm crisscrossing back and forth. One complaint had been like your niece or like my son. If they're there at the doorway to Toy Story Midway Mania, they're going to want to ride right now. And if you say no, you have to come back in 90 minutes. So what they've done now is you have to be all together, or let me amend this, the person who has the disability has to be there, of course, at the time of ride, and they'll look at the picture. So our friend with the email, his family's out of luck. They can't do this anymore because the child or the adult who has the disability, who's been issued the DAS card, has to be the one riding with the group. That's going to cut down. That's going to cut down on a lot of the shenanigans.
Right.
But what they do now is you can send someone from your party, just like we always used to recommend, send a Fast Pass runner to go and take all the cards, take all of the admission cards and go and get the Fast Passes while the rest of the family goes and does something else. You can do that now. The person for whom the disability, access service card has been given to does not have to be there when you get the return time. You can go, to another attraction or a show or something, and dad or mom or big brother or someone, whoever else is in the group, can run to the attraction and say, okay, we want to ride Toy Story Midway Mania. Oh, yes. Okay, Kelly family, you come back in 90 minutes. Gotcha. Okay. And then you go back, join up with the rest of your group, and you make plans to come back in 90 minutes. So they are providing an accommodation of, I don't have to sit in this 70-minute queue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be on the shorter queue, but I'm doing my waiting somewhere more comfortable for me. That's the theory behind it.
Okay.
You know, I'm going somewhere that's less crowded, less stressful. I don't have to stand. You know, I can, you know. So this is the big to-do.
Right.
The big to-do for many, many people. And that is why there's a lawsuit currently. Probably
I saw
not,
that, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be go to trial until 2016,
Right.
where a bunch of families said, no, this is not providing us access for our family members. Right. The way that you had it before, where it was accelerated access, that's what we need, and that's what we want,
Right.
and that's what.
Right.
And what the lawsuit about is they're saying that Disney is breaking the law, ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act,
Right.
by no longer providing the same accommodation. So they're still providing accommodation, but it's completely different. We're talking about apples and oranges. We're not talking about accelerated. We're talking about a different waiting environment. So it's hard. It's hard because most people, what they're doing when they have someone in their group who has cognitive disability, what they're doing is they're making their 3 fast pass reservations the way everybody else does,
Right.
and then they're using their DAS to plug in the gaps,
Right.
to fit it here and there. For many people, and believe me, I've spoken to many, many people. For many people, they're like, okay, it's not as easy as it used to be. It's a little bit of a pain, a little bit of extra, crisscrossing back and forth, but it's doable.
Okay. All right.
Then you get a lot. I've also spoken to a lot of people and read about a lot of people who are absolutely, they say, no, it was a disaster.
Right.
It didn't work. It didn't work for us. It did not accommodate. There was meltdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And they are in the other camp that says, this is not meeting our needs. So I think it's split. I see it split completely down the middle.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that we have seen, at least with the whole Fast Pass Plus and My Magic Plus with Disney, is they're tweaking. And I'm hoping that they're tweaking. They're obviously paying attention because there's a lawsuit against them. So they are not going to just sit on the sidelines and go, no, we're going to stand by this and the heck with you folks. But I think you're going to see some tweaking.
I think so, too. I absolutely agree. I think that of everyone's response that they're getting, whether it's phone calls back from Disney or emails back from Disney, everyone is being told, yes, we're listening. We're doing everything we can to accommodate you, to listen to you. But again, like I said, with Disney, everything takes years.
Right.
It takes forever. It takes forever. And I think that they wanted to at least give it a year in its current incarnation, and then they're going to see if they can tweak it. Because again, everyone's adjusting to the Fast Pass Plus.
Right.
It's a two-sided coin, because you're not only is this whole group trying to adjust to the DAS, but all of us collectively, we're all adjusting to planning our vacations in a different way.
Right.
So it's.
But again, with those, with and again, I'm personally involved in this. The people that are already having to do that on a daily basis, having to work out so many minute details of your day because you have a special needs person in your family. You want to be able to go someplace like Disney and be able to say it's all taken care of.
Exactly. And that is why I have evangelized for Disney for years.
Right.
And Disney has reaped the benefits, I might add. For years and years, they have been known as the #1 family vacation destination for people with special needs children because of their level of accommodation and how they make it so easy, and they make it, gosh, I mean, we used to feel that, Disney was the only place that we could go where we actually were given a break.
Yes.
Life is
Yes.
so tough. It's tough to go to the grocery store, and it's tough to go
Yep.
to the movies, and it's tough to do anything with your special needs child. But at Disney, it was like, they're giving
Right.
us a break.
You get a vacation, right?
Yes, we actually got a vacation. So yes, I completely agree that the current system is more cumbersome,
Right.
and that the current system does not provide the accelerated access. So this is, and of course, it's hotly debated in the community about whether or not people with cognitive and intellectual disabilities should even get this as the accommodation. Should accelerated access be the reasonable accommodation? Remember, that's what the law says. The law says reasonable accommodation. Now, those of us who are in it and live in it, I do personally.
We know the answer.
I do think that, yes, accelerated access.
Absolutely.
However, I'll qualify that by saying that there's been many times that I haven't had to use the GAC. I had it in my pocket. I didn't have to use it because of the way that I planned
Right.
the trip, the choosing which parks that were going to be least crowded, doing the attractions in a certain order. I mean, the more educated you become and the more you plan, it becomes a moot point. There were many, many times that I didn't need the guest assistance card. I will also qualify it by saying there's nothing, there's no card, there's no pass, there's no ticket, there's no magic cure that's going to prevent your child with special needs from having overstimulation and a meltdown.
Right.
I mean,
right. Right.
It is what it is. And yes, there are certain things that can, but we've been in short fast pass queues and he's had a meltdown.
Right. I was just going to say that. Yep.
Yeah, there's been times when we've had to leave the park. There's been plenty of times we've had to shift gears. Okay, that's it. We're going here. We're doing that. We're going back for a swim. We're doing, and you still have to have that, think on your feet and that flexibility. Come on. Any parent, and I guess I don't mean to be focusing only on children because the DAS is for adults as well.
Right.
But, if you're a parent of a special needs child, there's no vacation.
Right.
Even on vacation, you're still the parent.
Right.
Yeah.
Any parent, special needs or no, you don't take a vacation from your parenting.
Right. Absolutely.
Special needs parenting is tougher.
Absolutely.
And it was delightful. I spent 10 years of using the guest assistance card, and I thanked Disney and I thanked God for it every single time we used it. Things are different now.
Yeah.
Things are different
Yeah.
now.
Well, we'll have to see how this all plays out. It's going to be interesting. Disney is saying right now that they're doing everything according to the law. They're not breaking any laws with how they're doing things, but the ADA has a different opinion on that. So,
well, the other difficulty is that these aren't people who are cut out with a cookie cutter. Everyone is different. Everyone's needs are different, and some people's needs are much more complex than others. So it's a sticky widget, and I tell you, I would not want to be the person in charge of the disability services in the parks at this point, because it is, how are you going to make everybody happy? Because I'll tell you, we got big pushback from the non-disabled community who were making a lot of noise about, hey, how come you're going? My 3-year-old doesn't like to wait in lines. My 3-year-old has meltdowns. How come I can't get a special? There's people that are not as
well, and
they don't have as much empathy.
Let me just answer that question for you. Any parent of a special needs child will trade places with any parent with a quote unquote normal child any day of the week.
Yeah.
You would
have my GAC.
You would much
and let
rather,
my child have no autism for the day.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
That's a good deal for me,
So
yeah.
Don't judge people until you've walked in their shoes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it certainly is the number one hot button issue in the special needs Disney loving community right now.
Right.
And I and again, full disclosure, our last trip as a family was July of 2013. So it was prior to the DAS. We're next going in January. So I have not personally used the DAS with my son. And this is why I'm being a little reticent in coming right out and saying yay or nay, because all the information I'm getting is from other people.
Right.
I haven't done it myself.
Well, we're going to have to let you go because I know you've got to handle a situation anyway. Your son's getting off the bus. Yeah. So Kathy, we will absolutely love to have you on again, especially after your trip and get your opinion.
Yeah. I'll definitely come and give a trip report.
So Kathy Kelly of SpecialMouse.com, and check out her podcast. It is wonderful. Where else can they find you, Kathy?
Well, I'm on the Twitter at Special Mouse Pod, POD, and that's where I tweet stuff that's specifically for special needs Disney. I also have my own Twitter, which is Kathy Kelly RN. Kathy Kelly RN, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Kathy
Yes,
Kelly
I'm
RN. So, and I tweet Disney and autism and a bunch of other stuff there. I'm always tweeting. And hey, listen, I'd love it if anybody in your listening audience wants to join our Facebook group. I've got the page, which is, the Special Mouse Podcast page, but we've also got a private group on Facebook for the listeners. And it's a very safe and welcoming place where people who are Disney lovers and you've got special needs and you want to come and talk about these issues in private, not out on your regular, Facebook. It's such a supportive group. It's a welcoming group. And we talk about not just Disney. We talk a lot about Disney, but we also talk about other things too, just managing our special challenges. So if you want to go to the Special Mouse Podcast page on Facebook, just throw me a note there and I'll friend you and I'll be more than happy to add you into the group. I'm very proud of this group because people, they support each other. They don't criticize each other. It's a very positive space and it's a Disney loving space.
That's wonderful.
That's
very
awesome.
nice.
Sounds like a great community.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you guys, I keep doing what you're doing. I love it. You're true fans. You have enthusiasm and excitement, and I just love feeling that Disney love. It comes right through both of you in your voices and in every single podcast. Love it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Kathy Kelly of the SpecialMouse.com podcast. Thanks so much, Tim.
Yes,
that is all I got.
Oh, Kathy was the best. That's the show we've been needing to do for a while.
Absolutely.
Hey, anyway, you can join me, find me on Twitter. I'm ResortLoop Tim. We have the website, ResortLoop.com.
And I'm ResortLoop Bob on the Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget Facebook.com/ResortLoop. We'll have all of Kathy's information on Facebook and our homepage. So make sure you go to those to link up with her.
Absolutely. Kathy, where else can they hear us?
Pardon? Oh, on the Stitcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Stitcher.
I thought we stumped her. Anyway, Kathy, thank you very much. You've been listening to the Gateway to the Magic.
I've got my ear out for the bus. That's why I only had one ear on the podcast.
Get us out of here, Bob.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.